Hi everybody, this is Esther from Create at Arizona Science Center, and today I'm going to be demoing basic electronic soldering. Okay, so I have my most important tool right here, my safety glasses. Okay, and then I'm going to flip the screen around for y'all. I got solder iron right there. I have my brass scrubby cleaner. It's easier than using a damp sponge. I got my PCB board right there, printed circuit board. Going to be soldering a badge. That's a battery holder. This is the resistor and the LED. Ooh, there's the LED and a little switch. Let's see if I can get you all a better look. There you go. Soldering is pretty much taking two or more metal objects, heating them up, and then flowing in a filler metal. And the reason why we're doing this is to form a permanent connection between the components, and the filler metal also allows electricity to flow through it. Okay, so I'm going to be moving this camera around a little bit so you can see what I am doing. Okay. And make sure I can be able to see any questions while this is running. There we go. Make sure I can be able to see any questions while this is running. Okay. The first thing I am going to do is I'm going to bend, there we go, this resistor. Kind of take the little legs and move them like that. And there's a place on the board that tells me where to put the resistor. The first thing I am going to do is I'm going to bend. There we go. Sorry, there was a little feedback. Okay. And get this resistor end there. Okay. For our purposes today, this is going to be okay. So now what I'm going to do is go on the back and I'm using a helping hand. Let's see, get that probably a little closer. Okay, so with soldering, also, I have right here, I put some solder into a mechanical pencil. That way my fingers are away from it. Normally it comes on a spool, but my fingers won't be so close to the solder iron. The solder iron is really hot. If you can see the tip right now, it's not that shiny. Reason being, the metal is getting oxidized, and that's not going to help with the great solder, so I'm just gonna clean this. I like Wellers. They seem to work just fine if you're getting into this. So I am going to, first you heat up the components together, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the solder should flow right into it. There we go. I took the solder away. I take the iron away. Put the iron back in. I'm going to take a look. And yeah, I see it. It's going to be a little Hershey's Kiss. You want a little Hershey's Kiss. You don't want a big giant blob. So the key to soldering is to always heat up your two components and then feed the solder into it. That way it flows right into the point that you want. So I'm going to do that one more time. Sometimes my hands move, so I have to just go right back in. And there we go. I tend to wait to cut off my components until after I am done to make sure everything's working. I think the next thing I'm going to do for this is do the battery holder. The battery holder actually goes on the back of the piece instead of the front. So I'm going to feed this in. I'm not going to use the helping hands because I think I can lay this flatter on there. I think my assistant is showing up. My cat. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to do those. Okay. Once in a great while, you might accidentally put your solder further up on the iron. That's okay. Or if you forget to move your iron, if you move it first, sometimes your solder gets stuck. Okay, cool. So I got the battery holder on. I think the next thing I'm going to do is the switch. So I'm feeding the switch right there. Yeah, the contact pads on the switch component are kind of small. I did a practice one yesterday. It also might mean that I need to retend my tip just a little bit to help conduct the heat. Okay, let's see if this goes a little bit better. Yeah. Also, I know one of the things I have to be careful, since the switch prongs are really close together, I want to make sure I put the right amount of solder and not put big globs, because otherwise it would bridge and then the circuit won't work. Come on. I might use my helping hand so this doesn't move on me. There we go. Yep. Okay. There's some extra solder, so I'm just gonna next part is the soldering the LED there. LEDs, light emitting diodes, they have two legs. The long one's the positive and the short one's the negative. And it's very important that I put this in correctly into the printed circuit board. So on here, they actually made it easier. The circle one is positive, that square one's negative, so I'm just gonna put that in. Okay. Probably clip that there. Okay, so kind of like how I did with the resistor, I fed that in, and then I made these do the splits, that way it doesn't fall out while I'm soldering it. And I have a habit of always cleaning my tip off before I do it. Yep. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Flow that in. Got my Hershey's Kiss. And okay. Oh, there's one thing I didn't do. I did it earlier. When you are working with LEDs, it's a really good idea before you solder it into, your PCB board or any other project is to test them out. So, just taking a quick step back. Coin cell battery, positive side is flat, the waffle side is negative, and the way to test it is you just sandwich that coin cell battery into that. So, it's a good idea to just test all your LEDs before you solder it into the project. Also, that's a good way to test batteries really quick too, if you don't have your battery tester. Okay. I put in the battery. I'm gonna flip the switch, and there we go. The badge is working. So I'm gonna take the battery out, and I'm not going to cut off, or actually I probably will, I'll cut off a little bit of the switch connectors. And I'm not cutting it right next to the PCB board because I don't want to cut off my solder points. So there we go. We got a little badge. Cool. Flip this back around. Okay, so again, as a quick review, actually let me switch that back around. Solder iron. Okay, I used a Weller. They seem to work very well. If you're doing electronic stuff, make sure you get a fine point one. Also, if you notice the way I'm holding the solder iron, I hold it like a pencil. I don't hold it in a fist-like grip. Okay, and I make sure that my wire is on the outside of my wrist. That way I don't accidentally burn my wire while I'm soldering. You got your brass cleaner. Easier than using a damp sponge. You got the helping hand. You got your solder. Like I said, I tend to put mine in a mechanical pencil. That way I'm not gripping it so close. Prevents burns. Another tool I didn't use today because I didn't make any mistakes this time. It happens. Desoldering pump. Pretty much you heat up your point that you made a boo-boo on, and this presses down. Once it's heated up, you notice the solder flowing. You hit this and it sucks it right up. And then my flush cut trimmers to cut things once I know everything's working. Here we go. Of course, safety glasses. Thank you for joining us after the video. And anytime you solder, be sure. No, it's not a Weller brand, Martha. It's the one that I happen to have around. They're all pretty much alike. They all function just about the same. And after this video, I'm going to be sure to wash my hands. So anytime you solder, make sure you're not eating food while you're doing it. Have good ventilation. And wash your hands afterwards. Again, thank you for joining us for this soldering demo. Thank you.